undergraduate computer scientists that were accepted here. And I was just advising, I was just helping him out, like a friend. Like, hey, how do I understand these term sheets, things like that. So I was helping him out. Two of his friends left. So Ash was basically by himself. They just left to take traditional jobs, investment banking. One worked at like a climate tech startup. And it was basically, and he had already raised 2.5, 2.5 million, like 2.5 million. And he's sitting there, kind of a solo founder, like it's just him, his co-founders left. And then he's like, hey, do you want to join me? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's kind of how it started. But I was not I joined after. I was a student at the time. And like I joined 2024, like right after they finished this accelerator program, kind of closed the pre-seed and all that.
All right. So yeah, this definitely a little unusual to, you're just advising and suddenly it's like, yeah, you're gonna need some people to join the team and fill in gaps. So let's do it.
Yeah, no, the like career advice there is just stay friends with people, like be helpful because you never know. And like I was not expecting anything to come of this. And then literally a year later, he's like, I want you to be employee number one. Like I understand the technical side. I just need help with like basic day-to-day business ops. And I was like, yeah, absolutely happy to.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Obviously, congrats on the good luck and everything you've done so far. It does remind me, I'm sure you've heard this as well, being a military man. Napoleon, before he would decide if he would, not I, if he would promote someone, he would always ask, is this commander good or lucky?
Hmm.
Um, some version of that. Maybe I'm butchering it, but one thing was because there were some things you could quantify. Oh, he's able to command 100,000 more than anyone. Others can only command 10,000. This one, however, can make sure all 10,000 are always well fed. This one can make sure all 10,000 and even 25,000 can show up on time. But then there might be that guy. It's just I don't know. He's a mess. He's always clueless. He forgets the names of places, but he's just in the right place at the right time. He's just lucky.
Right.
And maybe that's an instinct they have. Maybe, just the heavens love them. Or maybe just there's some intangible that no one at that time could explain. And of course, now maybe we would just say, oh yeah, Vegas odds, because of this and this and this. We've analyzed him and figured out but whatever it was, and Napoleon would say, is he good or is he lucky? And obviously it's good to have both.
Right. For sure.
So yeah, and now we'll get into the actual questions. I think the main thing is obviously for anyone jumping into anything after a while, you know, you're gonna see, this is how it was at first. Now it's different. So for you, whatever starting point you want to say, but from then until now, how have you seen blockchain evolve?
Yeah, this one I do have a lot of thoughts on relative to others, but I think blockchain, crypto, Web3, whatever you want to call it, I think it's lost that pretense of like it's going to fix everything. You know what I mean? When I started,
Mhm.
I was in carbon credit. Well, it started as Bitcoin, but my first like operations hands-on role was carbon credit tokenization. Like we're going to use
Yeah.
blockchains to like fix like climate change, like the climate crisis. And then I had a little dabble because my brother was a fashion designer at the time. I had a
Yeah.
little dabble in like, like the artifact, like this like NFT, this like culture NFT kind of mixture and where that's going. I dabbled in that a little bit. And I think we've lost all in a good way. Like we've gotten less aspirational and more practical. Like now it's blockchains are great asset ledgers. Like it's great financial plumbing, like financial infrastructure. And so what I'd and that's okay. Like I think that's totally understandable. We even had Kyle Samani from like Multicoin. He like I think it was like early this week where he just totally like quit or like left the fund to explore other things. And it was kind of this thesis, which I've like kind of ruminated on for a bit, where it's just like there are a lot of promises, and turns out the only good applications are in the world of finance. And I think that's okay. So the other thing I've heard is Bitcoin, stable coins, and like gambling. Like so like weird like gambling infrastructure is like that's what we know there's product market fit there. And so if you're going into the space, I I I think just keep that in the back of your mind. Like and more use cases may pop up, but early in my career it was blockchains are going to fix everything. Now it's like blockchains are just better financial plumbing, and that's totally fine.
I will say, I think, yeah, and I think, this is where everyone can split hairs. I do think of carbon credits as being kind of an extension of finance.
Yeah.
Um, because it is kind of like saying, hey, you have 17 gift cards. I only have 14. Can I get one more from you? And you're like, yeah, actually, you know what? You can have two more if you need. Oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And at the same time, uh, it's like I mentioned earlier, there's some intangible reason for why this commander is so good for Napoleon. But now we can, we can use analytics and break it down. Oh, he wasn't actually lucky. It's just that, it's just that because he's always in this area and there's some numerical thing going on. And in a similar way, okay, fine, maybe it's not exactly uh pure finance, but carbon credits can be applied to environmental stuff. And in
Yeah.
some ways, you could say, what if we dictate policy, or maybe here's a very different field, and in some way, blockchain can be applied to that. And I think it really just comes down to at the moment, yeah, maybe it's mostly finance, but that doesn't mean we can't apply to other things, kind of crossovers, because
Right.
carbon credits prove it's not pure finance.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of both.
They're great asset ledgers, and carbon credit tokenization is ripe for like it needs a better asset ledgers and like random certificates issued by like multiple nonprofits, but it's like the quality and the downstream. So like if you've heard Adam Newman created like this, what I forget what it's called, flow carbon. That's what it's called.
Mhm.
The issue they kept facing was the like certifying bodies that issue the credits weren't allowing them to put their those credits on chain. So it was like really, yeah, exactly. But then you have companies like Toucan, and this is really old. It's like 2017, 2018 stuff that were just like putting super low quality and like it didn't survive like a very quick audit. Like, okay, this is actually just kind of these are very low quality carbon credits. So it ended up being an issue of qualifying what is a good credit. But to your point, I do agree. Like in terms of an asset ledger, yes, it is ripe, but there are still issues. And the way Flow Carbon is solving it, they are making themselves a body that issues these credits. Like that's like they're literally vertically integrating so that they own like acres of land in like the in the rainforest in Brazil, and they're able to issue it from that, like totally vertically integrating and doing it on chain. And like in the long term that might work, but I think we thought this would be a shortcut, and it turns out all these regulating bodies are like totally getting in the way. We're kind of like, I don't think it's too different from like what we're seeing in banking today and like the Genius Act and like the Clarity Act, for example. But it was like it was really messy. But to your point, carbon that is an asset ledger. So like maybe I was limiting it too much when I said finance, but like yeah, they're like, but yeah, agreed. I'll just leave it there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think necessarily you were narrowing too much. I actually thought of it as you're very clearly defining that's why it can impact other fields. Just like how, well, the Medici family invented double entry bookkeeping. That's such a basic thing. And that revolutionized Venice as a,
Yeah,
maybe not a global power, because I don't think anyone was on that level, but at least it dominated Europe simply because they could check their work like we do in algebra. Hey, you solve for X, now just check your work. And the Medici family figured out, oh yeah, we're basically just checking our work, making sure who got paid and who didn't.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I think I actually agree with the narrow focus you had, because I think that's why it's able to enter other fields effectively, because I do think you know, any startup, any company, any army, basketball team, even just, hey, let's go out for Taco Tuesdays. You got to have money. I mean, yeah, maybe there's certain situations where you just know the owner so well, who say, yeah, just pay me next time, or they'll say, maybe they're more relaxed. Yeah, you know what? How about, just next time I come to your restaurant, you just, we'll barter, right? You come and eat my
Right.
food for free, and then you give me drinks for free at yours. So I think there's definitely most of the time it's going to be a little bit more, all right, we got to know, the money transfer because,
Right.
you know, how else are we going to make sure that each employee has food to eat? Each employee can save up for that grad degree they want or, to go on vacation, the stuff that makes life worth living in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think that kind of leads a little bit to the next thing. Like you said, early on, a lot of people thought there's a lot of great aspirations, but now we're kind of at the point of here's some major hurdles. It's not necessarily that the aspirations are false. It's just, okay, great. We got to solve these problems. We got to bridge
Right.
these canyons. If we want to keep the dreams alive, or if we just want to say no, there's limits. But even then, that comes from learning what major hurdles are. So,
Right.
in your experience, what would you say are some of the major hurdles that blockchain has had to overcome?
Yeah, I think the biggest one currently that is being overcome is UX.
Mhm.
In Carbon Kerma, that was a big one. That was like the carbon credit tokenization one, which we thought we were solving the. Actually, it's still alive. It's still like totally up and running, and it has customers, but it just didn't like fill kind of like the what we had hoped it would do. But it started as like non-custodial or self-custodial architecture. And who are you selling carbon credits to? It's like corporations, like typically, or it could be like, like well-meaning individuals, but it's usually corporates. And they don't know, they don't want to know, they don't want to like what is a polygon? At the time it was on like, and that was scary. So we were like white labeling it, like we were doing it for them. But that's also like, okay, does that really scale? So there's a huge UX hurdle there. And then yeah, it's what we see now with Axel. Like Axel is a UX solution. It's a better savings account that looks and feels like Robinhood. It's a very simple value prop. And it wasn't really there were some like technical like things we had to overcome in order to get there, but everyone knows, okay, your savings account's giving you in the US 0.5% or something like that. These fintechs, Wealthfront, Betterment, they're better. They're like a 3% or so. But and everyone knows like basic USDC lending markets, you can get 5%. If the market's doing really well, up to 10%. It's just like there's a huge accessibility problem. Like if I told my mom like, hey, you can get 10% on like the over collateralized lending market over here. Okay, that might be too fancy. Maybe like my brother or something, where it's like you can get 10% over here. It's asset backed, like audited, dollar for dollar backed, USDC, Circle, public company, over collateralized, programmatic, 10%. They would be like, great, sign me up. And then I'd say, cool, open up a Coinbase account, then you got to open up a MetaMask account, then you got to connect your bank, and then they're like, "This is too much. I'm done. I like you lost me like 2 steps ago." So there's a huge UX hurdle of like or like accessibility issue, but it also just means that like whoever solves that like it should be a great company. I don't want to say like like life changing or the next whatever, like Robinhood or what have you. But everyone wants to save money. Everyone wants to make more money, better savings, whatever. The issue is accessibility, where as soon as you like, okay, here are the steps to do that, people are just turned off. They don't want to do it anymore. So
Yeah.
I think it's mostly a UX issue.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me when Facebook figured out how to create Facebook Lite. I think that was the actual name. A basically a it's a lighter version of Facebook. Would not require so many of the bells and whistles that a lot of us in the US are used to or even demand. And Facebook was able to, as a result, open up in India because you have a lot of people who still have older computers they just want to join Facebook. Then of course you have the ones who are on MacBooks and smartphones, and they get the full Facebook experience. But Facebook was able to say, here's a version that works even in rural parts of India. And then of course when they acquired WhatsApp, they're able to very quickly say, okay, you know what? In a sense, that's even lighter, a lighter version of Facebook because you had some people who only use Facebook to talk to people, and maybe they would fill a very basic profile. Well, I don't need Facebook. I don't need Facebook Lite. In fact, I just need a WhatsApp profile where I can just fill in maybe three details about me. One is a link to my LinkedIn, or maybe I just say very simply, alum of this campus. But the rest of that is I just join all the groups where Facebook still felt is more attached to your wall.
Yeah.
The wall of who leaves comments on my wall, happy birthday, congrats, or hey, here's a joke. And WhatsApp was a little bit more, hey, let's just chat. So
Uh,
yeah, what you're saying, the UX thing, I think, it's not necessarily there's no demand. It's sometimes you just got to figure out how to be the first, or at the least, if you're not the first, how to be the best at accessing that, or at least creating that access to make it easier for them. Because
yeah.
water flows downhill.
Right. Facebook Lite. I gotta look into that. I've never heard that story.
Yeah, if anyone in the audience, if you're thinking, wait, it's not called Facebook Lite, feel free to correct us. I don't remember the exact name, but I do remember reading about that concept. The idea was Facebook figured out how to create a lighter version that
Yeah.
just about everyone in India could access. And I want to say it applied to Africa as well, but the article I remember reading
Yeah.
was focused on India. So yeah, I mean, you saw the UX stuff, then it's not necessarily that. I mean, you are innovating in a way. It's just most people think of it as, oh, here's this new patented idea, and you're saying, no, sometimes it's just I just found a better way to open that market up to others.
Dude, okay, a little bit of a tangent, but I have a good
Yeah.
friend that's doing like he's just starting a company now that does so you know how you go to a gas station, maybe this is a very US thing, and like there's like either a Bitcoin ATM or a slot machine or like a little gambling
Yeah.
station. It's doing prediction markets for that, like a station, like a physical kiosk for like $5 who's going to win Trump versus Kamala, with the idea like 50% of the population does scratch offs, but like here's like an
Yeah.
easier way where like you can actually, and it's literally just like it's almost like a physical wrapper, like a hardware wrapper on Calci or something like that. And it's just creative. I love the idea and I wish them the best of luck, but it's just creative distribution. Like, it's like I said,
Yeah.
it's not reinventing the wheel. It's just like a hardware wrapper on something that already exists. So like
Yeah.
sometimes that's all you need. Like you don't need to create something like you just need to solve a problem or like, what I mean? You don't need to reinvent the wheel, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it might just be, how do we tread the wheels better?
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes it might be, nope, we're going straight with the treads. Okay, fine. But yeah, like you said, sometimes we don't need to reinvent it. Maybe not even tread the wheels better. It might just be, hey, just retread this old wheel and now it functions new enough.
Right,
So
right, right.
I guess you kind of answer the next question, but if you want to expand on it, because I was about to ask you what challenges are there that blockchain is still struggling to overcome. You said UX, and that's it has had to overcome those challenges, and it continues to struggle. So, do you feel that there's a little bit more to that answer, or do you think maybe outside UX there's some other answers
I
that you want
I
to
would
find?
say, yeah, I would say the second one outside UX is like trust, branding, whatever you want to call it. So
Mhm.
so we our go to market are like ideal customer profiles like Web 2.5. You have a centralized exchange wallet, you have Bitcoin, Ethereum, but you're not super DeFi native, right? And
Mhm.
like those, when you tell someone like that, hey, I can get you up to 10% APY diversified across these USDC lending pools, they're like, sweet, I'm on board. Like that sounds awesome. Other people, they're like, I can get you 10% or 6% even. They're like, I don't know, that's too good to be true. Or like, how does it work? And then as soon as you mention blockchain, it's like, oh, I'm done. Never mind. So like there's still a huge, And granted, that's not a customer profile. Like that's fine. Like there are some people who will never who are going to be latecomers or like late adopter. They're never kind of early in that adoption curve. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But man, there's still you know, how you will get questions like how is this different from FTX? And we're like, it's so like, are you kidding? That was a rehypothecation of your assets to go take on like that's what do you mean? That has nothing to do. It's apples and oranges, but we still have to. Still a fear we have to overcome. Or like, I don't know. This sounds like Celsius and what are those like the block Celsius, BlockFi, all those like CFI companies that were offering
Yeah.
yields, and they're like, how is this different from Celsius? And we're like, well, it's very different. Those were like rehypothecation. They were lending directly to like Three Arrows Capital and stuff like that. And it's just like, no, we're tapping directly into these like markets on chain. Like we're not doing any like off book deals. You can literally see like pull up a block explorer, you can literally see where everything is. Um, but some people are just never gonna, call it the bad apples, like spoiling the bunch or whatever. Some people are going to run away as soon as they hear the word blockchain, stable coins, whatever. Even though, I mean, the only risk is smart contract risk, which can be insured against. So,
Yeah.
and we're already taking measures by diversifying, so UX is the biggest issue. It can be overcome. It is being overcome. The second biggest issue is trust. And if someone isn't willing to do the research and like how is this different from, I saw FTX and SBF in jail, how is this different? And it's like you're not going to convince those people, so that's too much of an uphill battle. We just Some people are going to be late adopters, and that's fine.
The funny thing is, for the longest time, I've always thought blockchain should not be classified as a security by the SEC. I always thought it's a technology, but what you said just now helped me realize there is actually a lot of logic behind why it's been classified as security. I said, oh, I guess it's because everyone's using it for speculation. But what you're saying is like, oh, okay, it's not necessarily because of FTX. It's because there's so much attached to it in terms of, you know, I guess when humans first went from trading seashells to metal circles to paper rectangles to now, I could argue in a way that it's for me, it's I could open my bank app and it's just a digital number.
Yeah.
So why not just add a bunch of zeros to everyone's accounts right now?
Mm.
And then you get into inflation and economic theory, but kind of going along those lines kind of made me realize yeah, I guess that does make sense why it's been classified as a security, not just because the general public has used it for speculation like stocks, but also because it possibly is the next step. We go from seashells to metal circles to paper rectangles to, digital numbers to whatever that next one is, which in this case we're talking about blockchain, but it still comes down to maybe right now it's more of a technology, but it's shaping up to become the next, maybe not the next currency, because we came off the gold standard, so anything could become that currency. But the idea is this is potentially going to be a foundational element, if not the foundation, for the next type of currency.
Yeah, I think totally agree with that. I think like these autonomous like L1 networks or even the L2s, okay, whatever, Ethereum, Polygon, Avalanche, Solana, etc. Like classifying that as an asset seems like a stretch, but look at all these new L1s being like we're at like L1 saturation. Like look at all these Bera, Monad, like movement. Like I think people are like the 2017 playbook of like raise mega round, launch token, dump. I mean, it was terrible. Like it didn't work. It wasn't good for the industry. Again, like some bad actors, but so now it's like there is more practicality to it, attacking
Yeah.
like real world use cases. And I think that's where, yeah. So I, yeah, I'm torn because What was the legislation that they would use to measure whether something was a security or not? And it was like made in like the 40s or something. I forget what it was, but it was like ridiculous. They were applying
I
like a
I
19.
vaguely remember yeah, it was one of those things where on the surface like
Yeah.
that's such an old way of looking at it, but at the same time it's like, yeah, I guess maybe there is some logic for that.
Yeah. So this is like such a double-edged sword here, but yeah, no, there's a lot there. I do think, yeah, regulation's coming. It's already here. Like the Clarity Act recently, the
Yeah.
was like it's already here. It's only going to get more clear. We actually, sorry, another tangent. This administration, what's her name? They call her the crypto mom. I forget her actual name, which isn't good.
Uh, I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes some people become so much bigger than their own names. They
right.
kind of
Yeah,
like the King of Pop for Michael
right.
Jackson.
I only know her by like her nickname, but she does roundtables with like startups in the crypto space, and she's super fast. She's just like very eager to learn, like where's the innovation, and we thought that was great. We actually, um, like we're at one of those roundtables, and so I think the days of legislation just being like a hammer and trying to like knock everything into place, I think it's getting a lot better. So.
Yeah.
I don't know, an optimistic point to all this like regulatory uncertainty we've seen like in the past, I don't even know, decade perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's interesting because that makes me think. We talk about for every industry, you have the early adopters, then you have you kind of have a period where essentially it's a bull market and or sorry, a bear market, and you really just have the not necessarily diehards, but the true believers who stay in. Then the market adopts, and I've always thought, we probably should do a better job of clarifying the early adopters also includes people who treat this, in this case, treat it as a speculatory asset, people who treat it as a toy, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they are early adopters and that they're part of the big push to make it a thing. They have their fun with it, and there's nothing wrong with moving on after that. But they are part of that early adopters that kind of give it the foothold to entrench it, and then there are some people who carry it forward until it becomes kind of, oh, it was never in doubt. It's like, yeah, you
Right.
look backwards through history, of course it was never in doubt, but at that time there was a lot of doubt. There was a lot of, there were a lot
Yeah.
of bad players. There was also a lot of just confusion of what does that even mean. So
Yeah. No, that's true.
yeah,
Early adopters do like deserve, yeah, absolutely, to be rewarded. Um, yeah, no, I fully agree with that. I didn't mean to mischaracterize like early VCs as like
oh
like
no, no, yeah,
launch a mega round like or raise a mega round launch token. I think that play if that playbook's working and you're a venture capitalist, like your incentives are fully aligned to keep doing it. But it's not working anymore. And back to the
yeah,
way original point about the aspirational stuff. Another one was DAOs and Yuga
yeah,
Labs or was it ApeCoin DAO? They just dissolved. um what is it? There's another couple relay. No, perhaps not, but we're seeing this trend of like DAOs are actually beginning to dissolve because like as an operational model, it's terrible. It's like every corporate decision made by consensus. It's like you move way too slow. Like it's just not practical. Um,
yeah. It's actually
but
funny to think about two examples. One is more humorous. There was, I think, was it Twitch Plays Pokemon, where everyone could vote on what to do,
yeah,
and you always had
it's
someone who,
funny. Yeah.
yeah, and
It's
it's funny,
entertaining.
yeah, it's funny to see. Oh, I went to sleep. I woke up, and they're still in that cave. Yeah, because
Yeah.
all night someone from Australia kept pushing the character off the cave for some reason, just for fun.
Yeah.
But then I think another thing is if we look at how different governments have operated,
Mm.
there's good and bad. Europe is more a consensus model.
Yeah.
US and India, it's more majority rules. China is very much, I don't care what you think. And,
Yeah.
it's like, Europe, when there's good things, why do you move so slow? But it also prevents bad things. But then China,
Right.
on the other hand, I mentioned to the audience earlier, the students, oh yeah, we once had an emperor who literally had, he had actual mental issues. Not in the same in the sense of he's insane, but he literally was not intelligent in any way.
Yeah,
Um, and that's where consensus on being on the far side of the spectrum would be good in diluting the ability of that one person. But I think,
right.
it is interesting to see, all right, here's DAOs where it's like you said, consensus. But then I think if we look at how most democracies work, obviously there's parliamentary and other systems, but I think generally it's more some form of representative, and that's kind
Right.
of like here if it's a corporate board,
Yeah.
uh, or any company board. I think there's some there's some element of delegating, saying, all right, we trust you to carry us forward.
Yep.
And I wonder if maybe because I feel like I heard about some DAOs doing it that way, or at least moving in that direction. So I wonder if maybe after a while we'll start seeing them again, kind of being, wait,
Right.
what happened to y'all? Oh yeah, we were just figuring out new ways to do things, or oh, okay,
There's 100%. There's a balance. It's hard when you're in a marketplace, like that the economic marketplace where like speed to market is rewarded. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh wait, we got to put this up to board or like up to vote between 300 people. And it's I don't know, it's just messy. And this is we served let's see, two DAOs. So Rari DAO of Rarible, we've like managed part of their treasury, like their USDC holdings,
Okay.
and they've told us they're like it's messy, and we're probably gonna dissolve it because it just prevents us from like yeah, it's just like a constant stalemate between like different like competing bodies in the DAO, and it's just like it would be so much better if we just had like these five. So yeah, in the economic and like the economic arena or whatever, it's yeah, it's more of a hindrance. But in like governance, like democratic or like political governance,
Yeah.
yeah, I do agree with those points. I think the difference is speed to market is rewarded in the economic marketplace, and it's probably not rewarded. And like you probably want to have a slow process so you're not making rash decisions. But I don't know. I'm not like
Yeah.
a political economist, dude. I don't know.
Yeah. It's tricky because, you know, being first or being best, it's easier to be first, but being best, which probably means you overcame a lot
Yeah,
of those issues because deeper research, absorb more lessons on how to be better or avoiding pitfalls. But yeah, it's just in fact, just now I was thinking if you had any HBS, HKS dual degree classmates, I'm sure they'd probably be tearing themselves apart right now over that one question because
yeah,
the HBS instinct is this, the HKS instinct might be this. They might be thinking,
right,
okay, okay, communism is not a political system, but democracy does lead to economic things. So maybe, well, what would they say in HKS? And then, oh, but at some point,
right,
just look
right,
at the numbers, just look at the sheet. So yeah, I'm sure it's, if we're struggling to think of this, then it's good that we're all engaging into it and digging into it. And I do want to kind of mention um, you know, I was going to ask how do you see blockchain and medicine and finance impacting each other, but we kind of already mentioned that part, how it's probably going to be more a financial thing that digs into other industries. So maybe we'll change it a bit. I'm actually, um, I'm actually, uh, I think because I was not as aspirational about blockchain
mm,
early on. I think I've maintained it. I'm now more aspirational than most people because not saying that everyone is wrong, just kind of I didn't get burned because
yeah,
I was kind of I don't think it's as good as it says, but I also
right,
don't think now it's as bad as it says as a result.
yeah,
Uh, and through that, I actually think there's a lot of ways for AI and blockchain to benefit from each other
yeah,
because, for example, one issue let's say there's AI plagiarism. Now, obviously, I could just say, oh, here's AI from one device, and then we type things up on another device.
yeah,
But um, there are ways I can see how AI and blockchain can benefit each other. Because AI, for example, how do we maybe quick scan through this blockchain for anomalies? In the opposite direction, maybe blockchain can help track how did this AI evolve and
Yeah.
how does AI react? Because we're seeing instances where AI, how it behaves usually versus when it's being tested, it's like that kid. You say, "Hey kid, do this for the talent show," and suddenly the kid can't do it because they're overthinking it. And AI is showing signs of it notices it's being tested, so it acts a certain way. And blockchain, I think, could kind of help with identifying the way I see it is because it's kind of hard to explain what I'm thinking, but basically because blockchain is able to keep records, like you said, asset ledger, it's able to keep records kind of, who has owned this NFT or, this Bitcoin or whatever else it is. To me, that indicates an ability to keep records and even deeper records to even show where was the point where the AI went from quote unquote acting naturally as it was being tested to realizing it's being tested and acting a different way. So kind of like here's a kid who gets older, starts acting a certain way when they're being tested because they're aware of it, and then eventually they just treat it like, oh, whatever, and then now we're getting the actual results. So and in a way, kind of like marking how tall you are as you grow up. If we can kind of take those two concepts from growing up as a kid, apply it to blockchain, apply it to AI through blockchain, it does make me think there's a way for those two to impact each other. So I guess for you, do you feel the same way? Yes or no as a first part question, and then or first part of the question, and then the second part is why or why not?
Yeah. I'll say yes, but not yet.
Hmm.
I'll say so this idea of using blockchains for governance, Sentience doing that they're a great team. I think they're doing a good job. This idea of like blockchains are good at verifying. Like you can always like and I've heard this promise of like blockchains acting as guardrails for AI to like against hallucinations, stuff like that. It's not a topic I've like delved into super deeply, but it's a promise I've heard and I haven't quite seen it yet. So it's not that I don't believe, I actually think it's totally necessary. Like we're seeing like fear, like AI fear mongering, like every other day. You know what I mean? Like what didn't the head of Anthropic's like security like resign like recently
Yeah.
over some like concern? So like we probably need it now more than ever. It just hasn't. I think these hype cycles are just always ahead of themselves. So
Yeah.
I do think blockchains are good at verifying. They can verify that the output of an AI like matches the input. So to and then correct to guard against hallucinations, things like that. But we just also haven't seen it yet. And
Yeah.
I'll give you like the perfect what we have seen going back is like virtuals, which is a launch pad on like Twitter chatbots. You know what I mean? Like so it's unfortunate that yeah, to our point about like it ties into the point about carbon credit tokenization earlier. We know blockchains will be great for this, and I'm confident that they will at some point in time. I think the narratives get ahead of like what the technology, not what the technology is capable of, but like what the system is capable of managing. Like
Yeah.
those nonprofits were not ready for to tokenize like their like a carbon credit creation process and like they just stonewalled it like as hard as they could. And I think it's something we're seeing now. So I love the thesis. I totally agree with the thesis of blockchains verifying the outputs of AI to ensure that they match what we want, like as like humanity, like as a species. But unfortunately, what we got was tokenized chatbots, tokenized waifus to be exact. What was the big one that Luna by virtuals like
Oh,
the big
yeah,
virtual
yeah.
thing? And that's what we got. That's what we got. And it's like unfortunately it's a recurring theme. I'm confident we'll get there. I really am. Like we'll find some sort of solution. But so yeah, so my answer is like yes. I think that's a great thesis. I think it's a great direction. We'll get there, but not yet. I think the narrative tends to
Yeah.
get ahead of itself in crypto.
Yeah. I do want to kind of bring up a bit of a tangent. I remember reading somewhere that, and you and I have, we've seen this throughout our lives. Um, and it's actually a very old thing, but American culture, whether we realize it or not, we never really mentioned this part. And we talk about how American culture is very enthusiastic, very optimistic compared to most cultures around the world. And that part of it is kind of the go to the frontier, go west, young man, kind of, hey, go for broke. And the ironic thing is for me to read about, there's also a strong sense of doomerism that has
Mm,
always existed in America, not just recently, but always. And it's gotten stronger in some ways and weaker in
yeah.
some ways in different times. But the main point to that is the article was arguing maybe it's because uh, maybe of all the Latin sayings, maybe Carpe Diem became such a famous one for America because our culture has this sense of doomerism. There's no time left. This is it. Everything's gonna end. So Carpe Diem, seize the day, because we ironically don't have faith in a good future. So we're gonna have to do everything we can to
Right.
force a bad future, and as a result, we end up building a good future. And that
Yeah.
actually got me thinking. I don't know if India has the same level of skepticism towards AI or blockchain. I would say I think India and China are much more optimistic about AI. Um, I think China is also extremely optimistic about blockchain. The impression I get is India is lukewarm about blockchain. America has swung back and forth between
Yeah.
AI and blockchain are they're the future and they're the worst things ever, because we also have movies like Terminator,
Yeah.
and we get the message of, oh, Skynet is evil. Wait, didn't we also have Terminators that were good? And I think that's where America kind of swings back and forth rather than, hey, it's a tool that can be used for
Right.
good or bad.
Yeah. I love the point, like the doomerism creates a sense of urgency that probably doesn't exist in other cultures. Yeah, I think that's totally right. Yeah, I don't know what like you're reading some cool stuff, man. I might have to hit you up.
Yeah, yeah, we'll talk some more. But I do think at least for everyone in the audience, if you can read about stuff outside of tech and like I was saying, if you all figure out, what are some impacts from India's history, or maybe here's just a certain philosophy, maybe y'all can kind of sense a pattern and from that kind of, get a sense of what you can do with AI and blockchain and all that. Um, well, Ari, we do want to open up to the audience if they have any questions. Um, so yeah, anyone, if you have questions, feel free to come on and ask. You can type them into the chat. But yeah, Ari, definitely thank you so much for everything so far. Oh, we already have one. That's fast. Arthur,
Nice.
great question.
Yeah.
So, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts on connecting
Yeah.
AI agents with DeFi, decentralized finance, in case someone doesn't know what that means? What are your thoughts on connecting AI agents with DeFi? AI agent invests, swaps currencies, and does everything on the behalf of the user with the user's permission, with full transparency and helping them write their contract or sign any contract, suggest them where to invest in everything. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah.
And as DeFi works on the blockchain codes, the AI agent will write the codes for the user. So, what are your thoughts on that whole thing?
Love it. Love it so much that that's the direction that Axel's heading. And I think it was again one of those things where the narrative got ahead of itself, where like AI DeFi, they even called it like DeFi at some point or DeFi. Like there's a name for it,
I
but
think I heard that one.
yeah, yeah, no, it was like I don't know, it was hot on like Twitter for like a month or two. But it
Yeah.
was yeah, but it was
Okay. Yeah.
this
Def AI. Deep AI. Maybe that's how I say
what it mostly yeah no, to this day I don't think anyone really knows how to pronounce it, but what that ended up being mostly was like a ChatGPT style front end to an on-chain action. And we actually in V1 of Axel we tried something similar to that, and we lost our minds. It was not good because why would you? It was just much slower. And then for non-English speakers, it was a lot harder. Why would you type a sentence when you can just click two boxes and like essentially like, do what you need to do like 10 times faster? So, but to the original point where this is the direction Axel's heading. So Right now, it's a stablecoin savings account. We're adding more asset classes. So Bitcoin plus yield, tokenized RWAs. So like Apollo's private credit, sovereign bonds, US treasuries, essentially like a tokenized wealth app is where we're going. Now imagine if that basket could be customized based off of your any like your Twitter feed, your like some like a quiz, like anything, or like perhaps even like connected to your like spending habits. Where okay, I know this person has a this is a young person, 20s to 30s. They can afford to be a little bit more risk on. I also see their tweets that they're against these asset classes, and it can like rebalance in real time. Like essentially like yeah, like AI, like a quant or a wealth manager in your pocket is essentially what yeah, is essentially the direction we're heading. So 100%. And then you mentioned signing and user permissioning. That's a huge on that's a huge unlock. That's a recent thing. So delegated signing, delegated actions. What we do is Axel is allowed to sign on a user's behalf, but only to open source and whitelisted pools. So anyone can confirm and verify what we're doing. So yeah, all that to say, like even though that's well into the future for us, all that to say, like very bullish on that, like a personalized AI agent to conduct your wealth management for you, and it can move faster, 24/7, way more efficient because it's on blockchain rails.
Yeah. Also good record keeping. So,
Yeah.
a little bit light speed from Star Wars, a little bit of, double entry bookkeeping from the Medici family. Okay, we do have a little bit more time. If anyone wants to ask one more question, we can take that question. All right. Well, Ari, thank you for your time. Everyone, if you have any more questions, you're welcome to send them to us in the Discord, and we'll pass on to Ari and all that. But yeah, Ari, thank you for joining us so late on a Friday night. It does keep you off Elm Street. It is Friday the 13th, so hopefully tomorrow is a little bit safer on the streets for you.
I
Although
didn't
I'm
even
sure your
know.
streets are safe just fine.
It's all right. I got two kids. I go nowhere. It's fine.
Well, hey, the good thing is I'm only just now mentioning it when you have 2, 3 minutes left on this Friday the 13th. So, you know,
Exactly.
almost there. Just throw some popcorn in the microwave for a couple minutes. You'll be done with this day.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. Well, thanks so much for your time. I'm sure it was a hassle getting your kids to bed. You know, hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'll find a way to catch up with you at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Right.
All
All right.
right. Take
Thanks,
it easy.
guys. Bye.
All right, everyone. Same thing. We're gonna take a quick break. We'll come back in 5 minutes. So, our next speaker will be on soon. He'll be talking about medicine, and then yeah, we'll start a different live stream for that one. So, everyone, go and take your break real quick.